Hello, hello. Welcome to our Zoom tonight. We're going to be learning about how stress affects the body from my very dear friend. I call her my Sharon. She's my Sharon. You guys don't get her. She's mine. Um, Known her, goodness, I was thinking about this earlier today, almost 9 years, which is kind of crazy in the grand scheme of things. But I'm going to tell you a little bit about what a fantastic person she is before she talks. So she is Dr. Sharon Fitelson. She is a chiropractic physician, having graduated in magna cum laude in 1980 from Logan College of Chiropractic. She has diplomat status in acupuncture from the NCCAOM, the National Council of Chinese Acupuncture and Oriental Medicine, as well as the Chiropractic Acupuncture Association. Dr. Fitelson is board certified in chiropractic orthopedics. She has been an adjunct facility member of the Logan College of Chiropractic, where she teaches other doctors to be successful. She has 39 years practicing holistic medicine in St. Louis, Missouri. The founder of In Motion Health Center, a large multidisciplinary holistic center with chiropractors, acupuncturists, massage therapists, athletic trainers, and nutritionists. Dr. Fitelson is a sought-after speaker, lecturing widely on health topics across the United States. Like, whoa. So I'm going to give the floor to Dr. Sharon Fitelson.
Wow. Thank you so much. Oh, Cammie. Just so everybody knows, I am refired. I am no longer working with patients, at least in person. I'm doing a lot of telemedicine like we're doing now. And, taking care of people still, some adjustments in acupuncture at my home, but I'm being pretty careful. So, trying to take care of my 102-year-old mom and, my 90-year-old mother-in-law. So anyways, we're being careful. So that being said, I'm excited to be here. It gives me great joy to be able to share, my knowledge and to inspire people to have the best outcome they can. And I would assert that no matter what stage of health we're in, it can change for the better. We can always get better, and we can sometimes, unfortunately, get worse. So I want you to listen tonight through what's important to you, through your health, through your family's health, and just look for where can you make one simple change. Not a lot of changes, and maybe some of you only need to fine tune a little, which would be absolutely great. So let me see if I can technologically make something happen here. There we go. Oh, wait a minute, share screen. I got to share screen, right? Right, wait a minute. Share screen. Here we go. Okay. There we go. Okay, I'm getting there. Technology is
invited me to the Zoom.
sort of my friend. There we go. Okay, so we're going to talk about stress, and I think that it's an interesting topic, and most everybody says they've got some stress. So that's great. My way of educating is essentially, could people mute themselves? Anybody who's not muted, that would be great. Then I can think. But what was I saying? Anyways, that people, the way I like to educate is by speaking physiology. And I think when people understand the mechanism, and in this case, some hormones, then you will be more inclined to make a difference for yourself. I have a guest who's still trying to get in. The password's still energy with a capital E. Okay, I don't know what her problem is, but I can't help.
Sharon, it's all caps.
Yeah, I know.
Not just capital E, but all caps.
Right. Yeah, I know. That's what I said.
Okay.
I mean, to her. I'll do it one more time, but what can I say? But anyway, so when we consider, wait a minute, let me just do this here. Energy. Okay. So, okay, when you consider your own health or your stress, just be mindful that there are so many different forms of stress. So you can be under stressed, meaning not stressed enough. That's hard to believe, but some people, let's just say, retire without a plan, without a hobby, without a job, without a something to do, without a passion or a mission. And they're just bored. And, you know, if they're bored, they can make a lot of trouble, which ultimately becomes a problem. Eustress means you're normally stressed because stress is a part of our lives. You know, there's the stress of exercise, which is a good stress. There's the stress of hunger, which can be a good stress because it makes you eat. Um, there's the stress of figuring something out that is stressful in the moment, but works your brain. You know, a puzzle, you know, anything. That's a good stress. Then there's distress, which I think most of us know from. And that's where things happen, you know, day in and day out or every few weeks or something. It's a recurring stress. And it's something that you can figure out. You get help. You call someone. You have a good friend. You go for a great run. You have a counselor. You pray, whatever. And the distress changes. It's a situation usually that comes and goes. And that's, you know, a normal thing. And then there's overstress, which I think most people are like, these are the people, and I'm going to get into this physiologically, that have really almost no way out. Don't understand it, can't figure it out, don't have the right, you know, sources of help with this. So overstress can create quite the problem, and physiologically, that's, you know, that's where we're headed here, is to discuss overstress. So stress affects us physically, emotionally, and behaviorally. It all affects us the same hormonally. Every one of those stress have about the same experience in your body. So if you have any of these, and most of us have some of them, and it comes and goes, or you know how to manage it, that's great. But if it isn't going away, if it's recurring to the point where it's creating big problems, and you have to take medicine that might hurt you, or medicine that doesn't support you, or it changes your life, this is not good. This is not good. So I want you to, you know, use this as your body waking you up. Your body is saying, hello, pay attention to me. I am talking here. And if we are mindful, then we will make the right correction, whatever that might be. And a lot of people, just like high blood pressure, they will take medicine for high blood pressure because that's the script that is given to everyone. But if you do that, then guess what? You know, your heart is, you know, your heart's a muscle and it needs to be worked. It needs to be worked or else it atrophies. So blood pressure medicine can essentially allow your heart to be atrophying even though your blood pressure goes down. So if you're on high blood pressure meds, I'm not saying you shouldn't be, but you should be working out. You should be working on that heart because it is a muscle and it should not only rely on the meds. Emotional effects. Okay, we've all experienced some of this. This particular time right now is, you know, it's tough on a lot of people, on most people. And so I would assert that, you know, we have this and it comes and goes. But once again, if you know someone or yourself who is letting this get the best of you, you've got to take action. You've got to do something because, you know, anger left uncontrolled, someone's going to get hurt most likely. And that's not a good thing. And so every one of these has its own end result that we don't like hormonally, but we need to manage it. And there's so many ways. And what I'm going to talk about isn't medicine, prescriptions. It's lifestyle. So I want you to know this is all lifestyle endocrinology. And then behavioral effects, once again, of stress. The end result is we do some of this stuff, and this isn't good, you know, especially when it comes to alcohol and drug abuse, social withdrawal. You know, those are the kind of things that can be dangerous for the person or for the friend, their family and friends. So pay attention to these things and let's get to work on whatever it's going to take to make it better. So the physiology of stress is such. The adrenal glands is this little gland here, and it is like a thumb, and it sits on the kidney. And we've got two of them if we've got two kidneys, and we should have two adrenal glands. And so it is our fuel pump. It pumps fuel to the thyroid, and the thyroid is our spark plug. So essentially, if you have those two glands working together, that's a pretty good thing. it helps everything else from estrogen, progesterone, testosterone. I'm going to get into that in a minute. It helps it work better. Now, there's 4 different parts of the adrenal gland, and I like to talk about them because, well, it's my favorite gland. But that being said, adrenaline is fight or flight. So most of us know, we've heard of adrenaline, we know about it, but just think what happens is if you're in a very extraordinarily stressful situation, your body, it shunts all the blood from your brain, not all of the blood, but most of the blood from your core to your legs or to your arms, where you can run faster or lift heavier. And when you do that, you could save a child who's in the street and there's a car coming. You could pull a car off of, when the jack falls on someone, pull that off of them and save them. And it's a feat that you could not normally do. So adrenaline is something we don't use much of the time, but if we do, we are exhausted afterwards, but we've got it, and it is secreted by the adrenal gland. Then there's mineral corticoids. Mineral corticoids manage our minerals, as it sounds. So if you are taking in calcium, if you're taking in magnesium from, mineral supplements or from food, but your body is so stressed out that it's not using the minerals correctly, you will have problems. So if minerals are not being used correctly, you could have tremors, you could have restless leg, you could have, nerve not entrapment, but nerve irritation, like a heat, neuropathy, something like that. You can have calcium being taken out of the bones way too soon. And we don't want that. So we want to make sure that the adrenal glands are managing our minerals. Glucocorticoids, I'm going to talk about a lot more in a minute. And glucocorticoids, essentially, which is cortisol, is there to manage the blood sugar and to keep our brains alive. So the whole purpose here of our body staying alive is that the adrenal glands keep the blood sugar in our brain. If we lose the blood sugar, if we don't have energy to our brain, we do not make it. So that's the key. Corticosteroids are basically a part of our body's immune system. So, if you have, you've got your spleen, you've got your bone marrow, you've got your thymus when you're younger, all of those make, immune, entities, white blood cells, red blood cells, etc. But one of the things that the adrenal glands do is they help to manage irritants. So St. Louis is the mold capital of the Midwest. We're in between 2 rivers. We're a swamp originally, and there's mold everywhere. And so I'll have had patients come to see me and they'll say, my God, doc, the mold is 9 million and I am dying. And for me, I don't have allergies, thank God. And so I would say sometimes, depending on the person, well, it's not bothering me and it's 9 million. So I would assert that it's your body's inability to neutralize the pollen or the mold or the dander or the dog, whatever. And so that's why people get allergic. And so allergies are basically an adrenal issue. And if our adrenals are working fine, then our, the adrenals secrete corticosteroids, which neutralize, like Pac-Man. They neutralize the pollen and the dander, et cetera, and the mold in the air. So just know that our ability to be stressed out can affect strongly any of this. And if we can't secrete adrenaline, if we can't manage our immune system, if our bones thin sooner than they should, if our blood pressure is too low or too high, that is a function of the adrenal glands. So 90% of people are in some form of adrenal fatigue, or I would assert nowadays more people are in adrenal exhaustion. And adrenal exhaustion is essentially where you keep getting sick as well as stressed out, sicker and sicker and sicker, because the adrenal glands are not rising to the occasion. So cortisol is the glucocorticoid I want to talk about the most. And this is our primary stress hormone. It fluctuates hourly and flexibility is good. So here, if you look at this picture, you know, cortisol is not all high or all low. It has to have a certain rhythm, a daily diurnal rhythm. So here you can see at 4 in the morning, 6 and 8, the cortisol is going up to help us wake up. And then it slowly goes down over the day. And then before bed, which is 9, 10, midnight, it's going down, and then it goes to help us fall asleep. And then it goes up slowly so that it'll be up around, 6 or 8 to help us wake. Well, what happens when people are extremely stressed out is this rhythm is off. A lot of times it's too low in the morning, so it's hard to get up. It might be in the middle of the day or go down too low. And then it's way up high at night and they can't fall asleep. So this is something that I have used in the past with, and I still do, I should say, with saliva tests. So in a saliva test, you can measure 4 different, times of day. Whereas MDs, medical doctors, oftentimes will do a blood test and they will do 2 in a day. But I like all 4. And so, I tend towards saliva for a lot of the steroid hormones, which would be your estrogens, progesterones, testosterones, and your cortisols. So if it's too high at the wrong time, it suppresses your thyroid. If your thyroid's not working, you could be exhausted. You might be having trouble losing weight. You might be losing your hair. You might have dry skin. You might be cold when everybody's normally at normal temp. So just know that cortisol is so important. It also is usually accompanied, when the rhythm is off, by a lowered testosterone, which is sex drive, a DHEA, and growth hormone, all of these being lowered, all of these. So we don't want any of that. We want it to be normal. So it can be good, it can be bad, and it can be ugly. So when it's good, it's vital to help us be prepared to handle the stress of daily living. Okay, so when you get up from lying down to sitting to standing, your blood pressure rises. Cortisol does that. So if you try to get up and you're dizzy or you lose it, sometimes it's stress. Sometimes it is stress, not just your heart, but stress, because cortisol is not doing it. When your cortisol is in a good balance, it's an anti-inflammatory. And so many of us are inflamed just from eating the way we eat. We eat our inflammation. And there's a whole new term called inflammaging, so inflammaging or something, where as we age, we get more inflamed. It also, like I said before, helps us to rise morning and sleep at night. When it's bad, when it's off rhythm, when you're too stressed out and you're not managing it, it's usually a system where you've got repeated stress. Lack of sleep, you can't sleep well. You eat fast food because your blood sugar is going up and down, and you have a high-paced lifestyle. So it's hard, it's hard to get up in the morning, and it's hard to go to bed at night. There's an increase in this situation. There's an increase in blood sugar. Our appetite is heavier. We usually gain weight, and we have fatigue. And there is a decreased sex drive. When it's ugly, which it can be, that's where you don't deal with this. Maybe you take medicine, maybe you drink alcohol too much or drugs or whatever. What happens is the cortisol uses your body for energy to give to your brain. So it will take collagen from the muscle, from the, tendons and ligaments. It will take calcium and magnesium from the bone. It will destroy your joints if you don't get enough protein. And if you're not getting enough protein because you don't have the enzymes, then it'll attack your joints, and osteoarthritis comes about way too soon. The immune system breaks down, and nobody wants that. And our brain shrinks, which it's going to do anyways, but we don't want it to shrink too fast. I'm going to get into some of this here in a minute. So with a cardiovascular situation, take your tongue and put it on the inside of your cheek and feel how that feels. It's nice and smooth and glistening. Well, when there's too much cortisol because there's too much stress, that will affect a lot of things in your body. And one of them is the inside of your arteries and veins. And so what happens is it gets rough and irregular on the inside of the arteries. So the body's innate intelligence and wisdom puts plaque in there, which is the yellow. And when the plaque is there, that increases the resistance of the blood. So the heart is pumping harder and harder to get the blood through the artery. So that being said, that's high blood pressure. That could be a stroke, which is terrible if a clot breaks off, or worst case scenario is a fatal heart attack because the heart can't pump fast enough, hard enough, the blood won't go through. So none of that is good. And that is a cause of stress. I mean, stress is such a simple term, and there's so many ways that it can happen, which I will get into in a minute. But that's part of what can happen for heart attack and hearts. On the immune system, what happens when cortisol is off rhythm is that the thymus is shrunk. The spleen doesn't create the right white blood cells. The white blood cells can't communicate with each other. So they don't know who the generals are, who the T cells are. And when this happens, what the body does is it attacks sometimes itself, like what we know is an autoimmune response. So if there's generals, which are T cells, there's B cells, which are, the foot soldiers. If the generals can't tell the foot soldiers who to attack or who to protect, then we have a problem. When the body attacks itself, this is where we run into all of the disorders that are so many nowadays. When I went to medical school, I'd say there were 4 or 5 different diseases that, rheumatoid arthritis, ulcerative colitis. But now, Sjogren's, it goes on and on and on with the different disorders that there are, maybe 20, 25, chronic fatigue. It just goes on. And some people have more than one at a time now. So what's happening is the way we're eating and the stress that we're under is causing this cortisol to be impacted, okay? Also promotes, more blood vessels in the tumors, which, we don't need bigger tumors. Stress makes us fat, okay? So a lot of times we think it's just eating that makes us fat, which it is. But the truth is that when we stress eat, because of our emotions, because of situations, we're usually eating too much crap when we're being driven hormonally to eat that way because our blood sugar is swinging up and down. If we make choices such as sugar and carbohydrates, which are delicious sometimes, the simple carbs, what happens is our cell walls become insensitive and won't allow the blood sugar through. So insulin, which is there too, which is secreted by the pancreas, insulin cannot get the blood sugar across the cell wall. When it can't get into the cell wall, what happens is we start putting fat and fatty tissue on the outside of the cell. And when that can't get in, we don't have good transport of good oxygen and blood in, and the metabolic waste don't come out of the cells. What happens is essentially we start storing the fat in the abdomen, and you have a stress fat when it's usually in the gut, which mostly it is. And so what happens is our muscle decreases, our muscle tone, our metabolic rate slows, we increase our appetite to feed the slower metabolic rate, and it's a vicious cycle, and we have a breakdown of tendons, ligaments, and joints to make the glucose to try to get into the brain or to try and get into the cell. And so it's a vicious cycle, and diabetes is a diabetic who is obese, who usually is hypertensive. And I know you've seen those numbers. My God, it's something like 60% now in America, in the United States. Just so many people are so inflamed, which is also part of the reason why I think our numbers right now with a lot of diseases are so high. And I won't mention the main one, but it is true. So cortisol impacts aging. Of course, we're going to age, and all we want to do is age as gracefully as possible. We don't recover as quickly as we're older. Our brain is shrinking. Who wants it to shrink too fast? We will, of course, start forgetting a few things, but you know what? Some of that is just plain normal. But if it happens too quickly, if we have mild cognitive disorder go much too quickly and develop, dementia, that is not what we want. the skin dehydrates, and we lose tone as well. So increased stress causes an acidic pH. So what happens when we're too acidic, whether this is urine, blood, saliva, is that the body steals the minerals to buffer the acid. So we want to be more alkaline. And so what happens simplistically is osteoporosis. I have women in particular who have exercised all their lives, taken calcium and magnesium, which I'm not a big proponent of calcium, but I am of magnesium. And they're osteoporotic and they can't figure out why. They're usually a very stressed out type A person. And even though they've done everything right, the body has stolen the minerals. We get increased pain when we're too acidic, muscle cramping. So, it used to be called rheumatism, and now we call it fibro. And fibro happens to also be an autoimmune disorder. It's painful. It's a lot of pain. It's people are so inflamed, and we need to change them to be more alkaline. We become less tranquil. We have anxiety and insomnia. We hold on to fluid. So therefore, edema, swelling, obesity, and worst case scenario, congestive heart failure. And we have increased mucus, which essentially can be, known as altered immunity and allergies. And by the way, bacteria and viruses love to live in mucus, love it. It's a warm, moist, great environment. So that's why if we get a lot of mucus, oftentimes, especially upper respiratory, we'll have, sinus infections, we'll have, congestion in the lungs, etc. So the average American eats this way. Yeah. I mean, think about what you ate today, wanting to be, of course, more alkaline. So most acid-producing foods is a standard American diet. A lot of animal protein, a lot of sugar, refined foods, and too many grains. Alkaline is unfortunately only fruits and vegetables. So we really need to be looking how can we get as many alkaline producing foods as possible. So I'm going to shift gears here because I think I've given you the overview. And these are the remedies. And I think you knew most of these remedies. There's nothing too new here, but we must exercise. We really should. And it should be 5-6 times a week, sometimes 7. And I like cross training where you're doing some cardio, you're definitely stretching, and you're strengthening. And a lot of times we can put all that together in one. But, if not, please exercise. You must do it no matter who you are, no matter what stage of health or disease you're in. Have fun and do some relaxation. I mean, sometimes we're so busy that we have to put it in. We have to make sure that we're going to or watching a movie. We don't go to too many movies anymore. We're watching a movie, meeting friends out on the patio, keeping social distance at this point, I guess. But, what is fun for you? Is it a hobby? Make sure you're doing it. Don't rely on just like life to happen. Sleep. We must sleep 7 to 8 hours, and so many people get away with less, especially young parents, and that's understandable. But you've got to try and get it in because our body repairs itself overnight. The liver cleanses all the blood. Growth hormone, is secreted. Serotonin is secreted, which is a hormone that helps to have us be happier and helps us to repair as well. And then I want to get into and focus now on diet of antioxidants, fiber, and good fat. I think everybody knows they should be eating well or better, and everybody can make for a better diet, but it's not easy. So I want to talk a little bit about this aging process here and oxidative stress. So oxidative stress is we have a fire burning in every one of our cells, and we have 64 trillion cells in our body. So we have essentially 10,000 oxidative hits per cell per day, and that's normal metabolism. That's what we call life, okay? So we don't want to have too much fire because if we do, too much smoke and too much ash is created, and that is a free radical which will steal oxygen from your tissue and cause disease. So I like to say if you have a fire in the fireplace and a little ember falls onto the carpet, it will usually go out. But if the downdraft changes or a log falls and a lot of embers fall on the carpet, then what happens is you get a big hole in the carpet. And that is exactly what we do not want, okay? So oxidative stress is linked to poor health. And our best defense is antioxidants. So if you look at this apple, there's lemon juice over here on the right side. And that lemon juice is an antioxidant. And this apple has been in the air and exposed to the air on the left. And so that's what happens. We've seen it over and over, is the browning, which is oxidative stress. So when it happens to our face, let's just say, you can see the difference. And on this one side, she has used, a lotion on her skin. She has used sunscreen. She wasn't a smoker. She exercised. She drank a lot of water. She ate a lot of fruits and vegetables. She took care of herself. And the other is just the opposite. So that's what happens. And so when it's on our skin, we look like that. When it's on an apple, it looks like that. But when it happens to a DNA strand, that's when it can mutate. And too much mutation is a cancer. If it happens to the inside of an artery, we get the irritation where we get the plaque. If it happens to the nerves in our brain, that's where we get the lack of transmission, and it can become a dementia or, one of those type situation. I'm not saying Alzheimer's, but some form of lack of transmission. So fruits and vegetables have a synergy of antioxidants, enzymes, soluble and insoluble fiber, minerals. So enzymes are important, and they're found in raw fruits and vegetables, not in cooked, but nevertheless, raw is the best. But I would tell you, eat your fruits and vegetables in any form, but try to get some raw in. Because when you heat something at 118 degrees, it destroys enzymes. So enzymes come from raw meat, raw milk, and raw fruits and vegetables. Soluble and insoluble fiber, so important. Insoluble fiber, we know, keeps the bowels moving well. Think about the strings in the celery. That'll do it. But soluble fiber, what that is think of when you peel an orange or a grapefruit, the white part that you try to get rid of, the strings. You should eat that. That's good for you. That cleans your arteries. So does the white part of the pepper where the seeds are. Cleans your arteries, and that's soluble fiber. Minerals, of course, we find in meat as well, but you really want to get as many minerals as possible. And then other phytochemicals. So the phytochemicals that are so important are the antioxidants. I think I just went too fast on that one. The antioxidants. So in every color fruit or vegetable, there's 12,000 at least antioxidants, some that aren't even, we don't even know their names yet. So here's an apple that has at least, 12,000, another 28 pages of these names. And here's a multivitamin. And if you have a multivitamin, just look at it and see how many antioxidants like vitamin C, vitamin A, how many are in there? Not that many, 15, 10. So, a multivitamin is not as powerful as the whole food. And I want you to be looking, and I'm not against, I sell some supplements, but, I'm not totally against it. But you want to know that we don't have a multivitamin deficiency. We have a whole food deficiency. Speaking of food, here we go. So, this is, we've seen these over and over. It was in 1995 that I think they had broccoli on the cover of Newsweek on a fork, and it was called the anti-cancer diet, okay? Food is medicine, and that's, I think, where we need to look at. Food is not just pleasure and social. Food is medicine. So if you can do something to help your body with food, why wouldn't you? And I know all of us listening here are thinking that way already, and that's why you're here or why you were invited. So I want to switch gears a little bit because I've talked about exercise and food, sleep and water and having fun. But I want to focus on fruits and vegetables now. And I'm going to tell you my story. It was about 23 years ago. I was a very stressed out doctor. I just started a huge clinic with massage therapists and a gym and a bunch of chiropractors. And I was also perimenopausal, so now you know how old I could be. And at that time, I was so stressed out, I couldn't think. I had foggy thinking. I got sick. I was taking all of my vitamins. And a few people shared Juice Plus with me, and I said, I've taken my vitamins. Well, then I got the flu back then, and it was 5 days off with 103 temperature, and I went, oh my God. So another person shared Juice Plus with me, and she said, Fitelson, your vitamins are just not working. And I said, yeah, okay. So she got me some Juice Plus. Now, within a week, I felt so much better, or two, but I mean, the flu was going to go away. But my foggy thinking cleared up, and that was a miracle because I had the same problems I had before. And if I could get rid of my foggy thinking and have a lot of energy with the same problems, I'm thinking I was malnourished to say the least. So I want to get into Juice Plus as a way for us to fill in the gap, okay? So 30 different fruits and vegetables and berries. When I got on, there was only the red and green. Then a few years later, there was the purple, and now there's the omega. But they're grown to ripeness. They're pulverized, not juiced. They're dried at low temperatures. And so they can be either in a capsule or chewable. They're easy to take in every day. The omegas I'm going to get into in a minute are awesome. I so believe in these omegas. Full spectrum and made, essentially from vegetables and berries only. So we need 7 to 13 servings. So how many are you getting? Think about it. How many did you have today? I mean, I know I had about 5, and that's not very many. But if you're an athlete, you need more. If you're pregnant, you need more. If you're dealing with a disorder, a disease, you need more. So, it's hard to get it. So the reason we need so much is because, it's transported, it's not grown to ripeness. We don't get the variety. And I think the variety is key. So here, this is what you get. And if you look at that, how many of those do you get daily or even weekly? And I mean, I can say for certain that not many of these, I love almost every one of them, but I don't get them. So, I'll have an apple, I'll have a salad, I'll have blueberries. You just don't get enough. I have kale and spinach, as much green as I can. But just look, it's not just the amount of servings that you get, but it is the variety. The plant-based omegas are about 4 years old now. Amazing. They're sustainable because they took the fish out of it. There's no more toxicity from the ocean. There's no more toxicity from the fish. And they're growing their own algal oil, which is essentially what the fish eat. And the sea buckthorn, the pomegranate, raspberry, safflower, and tomato, it's all grown sustainably without herbicides, pesticides, in farms that are clean. And so this is what you get. And the thing about it is most omegas have an omega-3 in it. This has omega-3, 5, 7, and 9. So it is a blend that affects so much more than just circulation. And I have seen miracles occur. And as a chiropractor, knowing full well what most of us do know about pain and inflammation, this has been a game changer for so many of my patients. So there's also a complete shake, which I would be remiss if I didn't tell you about, which is essentially a protein powder, that is made with plants again. And so you're going to get another 15 or so plants from the particular powder that you get. And, it's as clean as could be, and a variety once again in there. And I have, it is a meal replacement, pre-workout, post-workout, and delicious. You can bake with it. You can make protein balls, with it. And kids love it. It's a great way to get good food in your kids on their way to school or on their way to their computer now, wherever. These kids are loving the complete, and it's hard not to love how delicious it is. So here's the thing. I know most of you on this don't eat on the left as much as, one could, but sometimes we do, and we all do. And what you should eat is on the right. So for me, it's like a way for me to bridge the gap, and that's what it's meant to, is not, it's to allow us to have some fun with eating, and also to be able to supplement. and supplementing is key here, is to make it better that way. So, it doesn't cure or treat a disease. I think most of us know that, but it does support, and there's nothing that won't be better without good nutrition. And I think that's conventional wisdom. So good nutrition, and it takes a while for the body to respond, but the body will respond. And I never promise quick results. It's however your body needs it, it will use it. So this is some of the research. And as a physician, I am very thrilled to have research behind it. But if you could have, a more flexible arteries, if you could have lower LDL and the gums not inflamed, your DNA protected, all of this that you can see here is something everybody would want if they could get it. So the research, actually, there are now 41 studies supporting on different, continents and different types of people, in different age people, all to deal with and talk about and show how quality of life can be made better. And it is gold standard, 20 years worth of randomized crossover studies that, it's the best of the best studies. And what they do is they do, they put a little bit of money into the research, of course, because they give the placebo and they give the, the actual capsules, but then they give it away. They have absolutely, Juice Plus company has nothing to say with the results. And you're known by the company you keep. So if you look at some of these universities, like Yale University, Wake Forest, Vanderbilt, MD Anderson University of Texas, it goes on and on, Graz, Austria, Italy, Germany. This is the kind of research that is being done to show, and research will show that you can, get some of these results. Now, here's a beautiful thing. There is now, it's called the Family Health Study, or Healthy Starts for Families. And you can sponsor a child between the ages of 4 and 18, along with full-time college students. They can get on Juice Plus for free for at least 1 year and up to 4 years if an adult over the age of 18 will sponsor them. So if you look at these results, who wouldn't want those in your children? I mean, if your children are going to sleep better, eat more fruits and vegetables, fewer over-the-counter meds, fewer doctor visits, and for parents who have to work, fewer missed days of work, it's a real blessing. So, over 1.5 million, and I know it's way past that now, but it's just a blessing. So here's the thing. What are you designing? Do you know what I mean? These women are approximately the same age, maybe in their early 80s, late 70s, I don't know. But you can chronologically and biologically be different. So what are you designing, and how are you reacting to your body and your life? So here is my mother. She is now 102, on her way to 103, and this was taken 6 months ago in May. And that's my mom. I mean, it's amazing. And she, she takes good care of herself. So in fact, I'm going to do a Facebook presentation with her, Facebook Live with my mom. She's agreed. But my point is, she exercises. She reads voraciously. She's social. She's more social now than she used to be. And she's always eaten fruits and vegetables, never loved sweets. I've had her on Juice Plus for 19 years, which is a blessing. So I would just say that's a life that can be designed. So health and disease are on a continuum, and we are constantly changing. You never know from one day to the next where you're at. But knowledge is power, but only when acted upon. So I've given you some new facts. Maybe you probably knew most of them. But what are you going to do that's going to make a difference? What are you going to take from tonight that will make a difference? So I really encourage you, it's not a dress rehearsal. Life is now. Use tonight's information to optimize your well-being, and just take care of yourself and share this with friends and family. And if anybody's invited you, and somebody has, talk to them about the research, talk to them about getting on the Juice Plus, and just to see what they can do to help themselves. So that's my story, and I'm sticking to it. So talk to me. I went over, but I always do. Anybody want to unmute themselves and have anything to say? Or
Wow. This never gets old. I know I've heard it many, many times, and I sat down and took notes. So are you willing for questions, or do you want to stop the recording and do questions? How would you like to do
stop
that?
the recording, please.
Okay.